Never know, everybody. Michael here. The water's pretty calm today. The sky's a little cloudy, very beautiful. And we pretty much know, the sun's coming up. Even though it may not be as bright or as clear as but no one's really doubting that the sun is coming up, because we know we know it is. That looks fun, especially on a calm day like today. Well, New Earth leadership. What to look for? What New Earth ideas would boil up? No one can really tell, I guess. But it would be totally different than the ideas that are put forth at the moment. The crazy things that are going on in America right now. All those resources and all that money. You could just stick with resources overall. That includes money. That includes natural resources and made-up resources and human people resources, mind resources, intelligence that's being pointed in just, in destructive ways, unproductive ways. Maybe it's productive in destruction, but maybe that's something that there's always production of something. There's always. I remember there was a commercial a while back. It said something like Telesis, intelligent movement. I can't totally remember what it said. Telesis. Well, New Earth leadership, it would be a totally different thought. It would be a understanding that the overall doesn't get better until all the little parts have gotten better and have gotten clean in their thoughts, in their telesis. And I talked about how there are companies that understand this, and so they put a stipend aside. They actually pay above and beyond the hourly or the amount they pay people, monthly, hourly, whatever it is, and it's a whole nother amount, like $300 a month, maybe more, to go become a better person. That's amazing. That's a sign, that business is finding out to be better in business, that they need the little parts, the people working to be better humans. And so New Earth leadership asked the question, what if the leaders of the country had that idea, or got it, became aware, got enlightened to this idea, woke up. Woo, that might trigger a bunch of people. Woke up to the thought that when all the little parts are working better, then the overall it works better. It's kind of like a race car. Everybody kind of knows. You may not like it, but race cars, they're kind of cool, man. These people spend all year to get ready for a particular race sometimes, if they're only in one race in a year, like the Daytona 500, which is about to happen. And they make sure that every single part of that engine is perfect to the micro spec, that the air filter has not one, they probably put a brand new, even if I don't even know if they use air filters, maybe they've gone beyond that technology, but they make sure that every aspect of that vehicle is perfect. Perfection. And the driver says, "Is she ready?" And the mechanic says she's perfect. And he sits in that car and he's ready to race, like ready to win. What if our leadership thought about it like that and wanted every single part of it to be perfect? Every person that is out there working in their own little way, doing all these little people doing all these little parts, little movements perfectly, authentically, empowered by each other, by themselves, because they know. They don't hope the sun is coming up, or they don't believe it, or they don't even have faith, but they know. They know they're their authentic self, and they can stand in it and perform without even thinking. Like that's what we're doing, right? We're just performing, thinking we're doing the good thing. We don't think about it every day. We don't, maybe we pray, or maybe we go to church on Sunday, or maybe we go to yoga because it makes us feel good. That's kind of cool. Or we exercise, go to the gym every morning because it makes us feel good. But we're not really thinking about our day to day. We're just doing it. Now we got to go to work. Now we got to pick up the kids. Now we got to make dinner. Or now we're just performing. So we have to get to that point. We can't just always be thinking about how we're performing, or it gets weird, So wouldn't it be awesome to know that we are in our authentic expression at all times? And so I talked about yesterday the New Earth leadership and education, and how instead of pumping out people that are ready to work in factories, education pumped out people that had tapped into their authentic understanding of themselves and who they are and what piece of the puzzle they have, because they did well in this game, or they did well in art, or their mind did well in mathematics, or that, or it just made them feel good. That's how you find out, really. You see what makes you feel good. And I hear some people already. I hear myself in my mind say, "Man, it felt good to drink that wine," or "Man, it feels good to get altered in some space." But that's not the feel good I'm talking about. The feel good where you walk tall in full stride in a new area because you know that what you have to offer. Your authentic self is here to be in service to others because you feel so amazing that you're willing to help. Isn't that how it works? So if you're in a great mood, everything's just hitting, and you've gone to your gym, and you've had you didn't eat too much in the morning, and for some reason you're just and you're in the zone, and things are just great, and you see someone on the side of the road and they need help, and aren't you more apt to stop and give them a hand when you're in this great mode, when you're in the zone and feeling wonderful, and as opposed to, let's say, you're heartbroken, or you're in some sort of distress, and it could be just mental, or it could be something totally real. Maybe you had a terrible dream, maybe your dream is terrible. But when you're in that space, then we'll call that the lower zone. Maybe we're always in some sort of zone, and when you're in this lower zone, are you going to pull over and help that person? And if you do, is it authentic, or are you just saying that God would want me to, or what would Jesus do, or which is all fine, which is all great. But wouldn't it be even better if you were just like, oh, I'm going to pull over and help this person, because that's who I am. That's my authentic self. So if leadership decided to put resources instead of into war or rebuilding other countries that they just blew up, that's the silliest thing. America has gone and blown up whole countries and then sent more Americans in there to rebuild it. All those resources, why there's so much that could be going on right here in our backyards, it's way more than just $1 trillion. It's way more. But if you just took that 1 trillion, and it doesn't even have to be, that'd be hard to spend 1 trillion. But if we just put resources towards making sure the water and the food was available and pure and clean, because they knew that if every part of the race car, if every American in America had clean water and clean food, they would work better. We would work as a race car America instead of whatever the heck is going on now. If we put some of these resources to changing the education, and from pumping out factory workers to pumping out authentic people ready to express themselves in new and creative ways, to further technology, to further the everyday into a better situation, a better experience. And children are important. They're so important, and the family aspect for children is monumental, right? I mean, those formatting years, those early years, by the time you're 21, you may hold on to memories of how your parents treated you, or how your mom loved you unconditionally. But by the time you're 21, you're ready to go express your own adulthood, and your mom probably shouldn't be buying your underwear anymore. There's things that should change. You should buy your own clothing at that point to express yourself in another way other than your mother or your parents. So let's just say 21 and younger, or maybe 18 and younger. But for sure, those younger years, the babies can't even survive without touch and, that feeling of safety and being loved. So maybe if we put some of these resources to that, to creating a firm foundation for all children and their families, and when a child's born, then that family is taken care of. The basics are taken care of. So we can define it together. Maybe the first 5 years or the first 10 years or whatever it is for that child, both or at least one, maybe the mother, because they're mothers, right? They hold that space, they hold that energy. Not that the fathers don't hold energy of love but a mother, I mean, come on, it's your mother. So what if some of this trillions of dollars that go to bombing other countries and then rebuilding them so we can have some sort of control over their resources, what if some of that money, some of those resources went to families giving their kids a fantastic start so they feel secure and they feel loved, and then they're able to pass that along when they start going to school while they're looking for their authentic self. It all builds on each other. It starts looping in a really positive way instead of having all this, what we have. You can look and see. We got kids going to psychiatrists, and taking pills and because they didn't have a firm foundation. Maybe they weren't brought up with both parents, or maybe both parents are working all the time just to pay the rent, or maybe one's working to pay the rent and the other one's working to pay the babysitter. We all know these things. We all have gone through them, as far as the older generations. We've seen it. We've gone through it. We've lived it. We know it. So New Earth leadership would have all these type of thoughts in their view. Because how people grow up, starting with that really firm base of having two parents, having the best possible base produced for them, then we wouldn't have as many psychiatry trips, or we wouldn't have kids in schools so distraught on how things are that they get their parents firearms and make the news, and we just wouldn't have it, right? And you think those people would grow up into adults and do crimes? No, they would want to pass along what they've learned, that a base is important. And then authenticity is the goal. Expressing yourself in your authentic way, in your God-given authentic expression that's unique, that's not, no one else has it. And how many of these have we lost? How many of these has America not experienced because we didn't have the base, the foundation? So New Earth leadership would divert resources towards clean water and clean food. They would divert resources to education that taught children how to be authentic, figure out who they are, look inside them, and find that piece of themselves. And then they would support families as they made children, and so that there is a true, authentic family aspect. I don't know why this is not possible. Some people ask me, oh, that's impossible, that'll never happen. I don't understand why. If we all decide at one moment that, yeah, this is what we want, then who's to say that we're not going to get it? If we all decide that this is what we want, all at the same time, who says we're not going to get it? It's much like having having Christmas. How many people celebrate Christmas all at the same time? Or any kind of holiday. Just millions of people all at the same time decide that they're going to dress up in their favorite costume for Halloween and experience this. And it could be the exact same thing. We all decide at the same time that we want leadership that thinks in this way, that has woken up in this particular way. And it seems possible to me. It seems possible to a lot of people, I know. And there's people that have been thinking like this maybe their whole life, or maybe at 20 years, or they've been living this life for a while, but they're out on the fringe. They're not really in the cities, or they're not doing the same thing as the other millions. And if you look at it like a bell-shaped curve, there's going to be extremes on the left side of that lower bell shape, and then there's the other extremes on the right side, but most of us are in that big bell part. And so that's who I'm talking to, is that the most of us that are in that big bell part that maybe hasn't heard somebody speak in such a way, or didn't think it was possible. But if the big part of that bell shape decided that it was possible and that's how we were going to do it, then it would happen. Heaven, everybody. It would happen. But first we have to do it for ourselves. We have to take time. We have to do the extra steps to get that filtered water, because most of our body's water, If the water isn't clean, then how are we going to think right? And how are we going to even have energy to do things right? That I heard this saying, it said, when you're sick, when you're unwell, there's only one problem, right? That's that illness. But when you're well, then there's thousands or even millions of problems. That's kind of a pessimistic way to look at it, but it does give you the point that how important being well is. So take the time and drink the water that's not in the plastic, and maybe just, it costs less to put water in that 5-gallon jug every day. It's another trip, but the clean water that goes into your body allows you to think a little more clear, and then that trip doesn't seem so bad, It doesn't seem like another thing I got to do. It seems like a thing that I want to do so I can think clearly. And think about the food that you eat, and even the doctors that aren't even into nutrition, let's say, necessarily, they say eating good food is good for you. That's a common sense thing, right? So what is good food, I guess, is where all the debate is. And well, I guess you got to figure that out yourself. There's no other way. There's so many people that eat just single type of foods and mono diets, right? It could be all meat or all melons or all veggies, whatever. But you got to figure that out yourself. You got to see what works for you in these things, and what would be the markers to even decide what makes it work for you. Maybe you wake up feeling refreshed and ready to go instead of tired. If you're waking up and you're going, the first thing you say is, "Oh, I'm tired," then maybe the foods you're eating aren't the best foods. If you got to have a big old coffee every morning just to get rolling, that's a pretty good sign, a pretty good marker that maybe you could switch up your diet and investigate another way. Maybe just not eating a whole lot. I guess there's that. A lot of people, they're talking about not eating a whole lot. That helps. It really does. Then your body's not always in digestive mode, and all your energy's all going to digestion. So maybe eat a little less. Investigate it. Do it. Be conscious about what you eat and what you put in your body. the water, the good foods, and then take a little control over your nervous system. You know, whatever, if you watch a movie that's scary, that triggers your nervous system in a certain way. And maybe we're so dulled and bored that that's exciting to us. I get it. But know that you made a decision to trigger your nervous system in a particular way. And there's lots of books and lots of influencers out there talking about the parasympathetic and the sympathetic nervous system modes, and which is great. It's everybody's talking about it and giving you ideas, and maybe meditation is one of those ways to stay in your parasympathetic mode longer, even when things are just going crazy all around you. If you can stay in that calm parasympathetic mode in your nervous system, then what do? You become the calm in the storm, you know? You become the eye of the hurricane. You become the lighthouse while everybody else is in the dark. That's my wish. That's my blessing. That sounds weird, huh? I bless you to be in your parasympathetic mode, but wouldn't that be great? If everybody was a lighthouse of sorts, or everybody was the calm in the storm instead of the ready to be triggered and shoot somebody. It's kind of a thing in Florida, you know, don't tread on me, I'll shoot you. Well, remember your creators. Don't let anybody get you confused about that. You create everything in your life. You can even create your nervous system mode by doing things, by meditating, by drinking clean water, by eating fresh foods. You know, I have friends that are hunters, and the meat that they have is way different than the meat you get in the supermarkets. Fresh veggies, farmers markets, fresh apple pulled right off the tree and into your mouth. Man, that is a treat. Fresh tomatoes right off the vine. Come on. Everybody knows that the more fresh your food is, the more fresh your body is. The more clean your water is, the more clean your body is, and your thoughts. Everything works better. Treat yourself like a race car and have everything that goes in it and have everything inside it working at its best. It's possible. You just got to take the steps. So take those steps and be the best creator you can be. New Earth Leadership. Love you guys.